Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei was the son of Satan? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Somewhere in the underworld, the sounds of steel clashing and explosions echoed as a young man with black hair and red eyes fought off a group of masked attackers. They unleashed various elemental magic from fire to ice, but he skillfully dodged most of the attacks, only sustaining minor grazes. Suddenly, he was ambushed by assassins wielding swords and daggers. He defended himself with his own sword, taking down several attackers with swift precision. After evading a downward strike, he stabbed one assassin through the throat and beheaded two more in quick succession. Gathering his demonic power, he unleashed a wave of pure black miasma that engulfed a group of approaching assassins, their screams piercing the air as they disintegrated. However, the exertion took its toll, and the young man fell to one knee, struggling to catch his breath. A figure approached, appearing to be in his late 20s, with silvery white hair and blue eyes, dressed in an elegant white suit with blue and gray accents. "Lucifer," the young man gasped. "Hello." "Satan," the figure replied with a confident smirk. Satan struggled to rise but managed to stand. My disappointment in you is immeasurable. Never did I think you'd resort to sending assassins to kill me." Lucifer's expression hardened. "Then I guess we're both disappointed in each other. I never thought you'd willingly work with God, our sworn enemy." "He doesn't have to be our enemy, brother. None of the angels do. We can coexist, I've seen it." "Wrong. Angels and fallen angels will always look down on us. They will never accept us. With 666 sealed and you and God weakened, it's the perfect time to take over not only the underworld but the human realm and heaven." "Are you mad? A conflict of that size will kill billions. Not just humans and angels, but devils as well. An acceptable sacrifice. You'll lead our people to extinction." "Wrong. I'll lead them to peace." At that moment, Satan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He looked down to see a blade protruding from his body, yanked out by another masked assassin who joined Lucifer's side. "Know that this wasn't personal, little brother. I can't have you getting in the way of my vision. Farewell." Satan gasped, "You're right about one thing. One day, our people will know peace. But it won't be because of you." With those final words, he took his last breath. Unbeknownst to Lucifer, Satan had anticipated such a scenario. He had faith that his people would eventually recognize the value of peace over conflict, and when the time came, he would be there to guide them. Hundreds of years later, much had changed since Satan's death. The most significant event was a war between the three biblical factions, known as the Great War. As Satan had warned, this conflict claimed the lives of nearly all the devil faction, wiping out 40 of the 72 devil families, including Asmodeus, Leviathan, Beelzebub, and Lucifer. Shockingly, God also perished in this war. The truth about Satan's death came to light, creating a rift among the devils. Half remained loyal to Lucifer, while the other half rallied behind Satan, sparking a civil war. Those loyal to Satan emerged victorious, with many of Lucifer's followers either wiped out or forced into hiding. The remaining devils united under Satan's ideals, establishing a system where power and authority had to be earned rather than inherited. However, doubts lingered among some. In the human realm, Kuoh Town, Japan, one stormy night, an orphanage stood on the edge of town. Inside, the children slept soundly while the couple who owned the orphanage, Goru and Miki Hai, prepared for bed. A sudden clap of thunder shook the building, causing a brief power outage that startled some of the older children awake. After ensuring everyone was all right, they tucked the children back in. Before they could settle down, they heard something outside, almost like a call. Goro opened the front door to find no one there, except for a small basket containing a baby boy wrapped in blankets. Mickey picked him up, noticing he was peacefully asleep. They surmised that the child had been left on their doorstep by a parent unable to care for him. Despite having seen similar situations before, they felt compelled to bring the child inside and into their bedroom. Who would just leave him here during a storm? Goru exclaimed. Mickey, I don't know, honey. But thankfully, we found him before going to bed. Guru, right. Mickey, I wonder what this little boy's name is. Guru, there wasn't anything in the basket to tell us. So, I guess we just give him one. Mickey and Guru thought about a good name for the baby boy in Mickey's arms. Then a name came to Mickey. Mickey, how about Issei? Guru, Issei. Guru looked at baby Issei. He looked peaceful. His small amount of black hair seemed to reflect the little bit of light in their bedroom. Guru, it fits him. Mickey, I agree. Smiles little Issei. Mickey gently poked Issei's face, causing him to shift a little, but he remained asleep. Guru brought a spare crib into their room, and Mickey laid Issei down in it before they both went to sleep. Time skip. 5 years later, 5 years have passed since the Hyudas found Issei on their doorstep. Issei was now 5 years old, and during his time living at the orphanage, he had been really friendly with the other children, who had shown him the same kindness. Issei had demonstrated exceptional talent in academics, surprising everyone with his intelligence for a 5-year-old. Mickey and Guru were incredibly proud of him, confident that he would find a family in no time. The Shidu family often visited the orphanage. Tuji and Emily Shidu were close friends with Guru and Mickey, and their daughter Irina loved coming over to play with the other children. Issei and Irina quickly became good friends. During a conversation between Guru and Tuji, Guru had asked about adopting Issei. However, Tuji hesitated, feeling a dark aura surrounding Issei. Despite his initial concern, he saw how friendly Issei was with Irina and the other children, attributing his kind nature to Guru and Mickey's guidance. Time skip. 3 years later, Issei was now 8 years old. He continued to be a well-behaved, respectful child, excelling in his studies. Unfortunately, he had to say goodbye to Irina when her family decided to move to London. It was a heartfelt farewell, but they promised to see each other again someday. Before leaving, Tuji had a conversation with Guru and Mickey. Tuji, listen. About Issei. Mickey, what about him? Tuji, look after him. He's special. Guru and Mickey exchanged glances. Guru, don't worry. We will. After Tuji and his family left, Guru and Mickey reflected on their last conversation. They had always known Issei was special, but Tuji's request felt more personal, as if he was asking them to become Issei's actual parents. It struck them as odd that no other couple wanted to adopt him. In their eyes, Issei was the perfect child, well-mannered, intelligent, kind, athletic, and respectful. Yet, no one wanted to adopt him. Even as most of his friends were being adopted, he remained happy for them. After a couple of days of contemplation, Guru and Mickey decided to officially adopt Issei as their son. He would now be called Issei. Issei was overjoyed at the thought of officially becoming their son, as he already viewed them as his parents. A few days later, while Issei was sleeping, he had a strange dream. He found himself standing in a vast open field, a gentle breeze brushing against him. He smiled, then heard the sound of grass crunching behind him. Turning around, he saw someone who looked like an older version of himself. Hello, Issei. Issei, hello. Who are you? The man knelt down in front of Issei. Not sure how to explain that. I guess you could say, I'm your father. Issei's eyes widened at the man's words. Issei, that can't be true. How can you be my father? It's not easy to explain. But you should know that I've been watching you for a long time now. Issei, you've been watching me, not physically, more like spiritually. Issei, how is that possible? Are you familiar with how Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary? God used the Holy Spirit to be our Jesus through the Virgin Mary, right? Issei, something like that. And you could say I did the same. Just instead of the Holy Spirit, it was more like the demonic spirit. Satan, yes, Issei. I am Satan. And you are my son. Issei was completely shocked to learn he was the son of Satan, the Antichrist. Panic began to set in. Issei, no. I'm not. I'm not evil. I'm not. Satan, oh, calm down. Just because you are the Antichrist, doesn't mean you are the embodiment of evil. Issei, are really? Satan, yes. Just calm down. If anything, you'll be the one who brings peace to the world. Issei, what do you mean? Satan, a long time ago, I was betrayed by someone I once trusted. But I had a vision where the three factions, the devils, angels, and fallen angels could live in peace. Issei listened as Satan spoke, but a question popped up in his mind. Issei, who betrayed you? Satan, my older half-brother. Lucifer. Issei, Lucifer. But Satan, Lucifer wanted to conquer everything. The underworld, the human world, and heaven. But his ambition would lead our people to extinction. Issei, and you tried to stop him. Satan. But I didn't realize his ambition until it was too late. By the time I realized it, he had already made his move to take control. So he's stronger than you. Satan, no. In terms of power, I was stronger. But he chose a moment when I was weakened to attack me. Issei, why were you weakened? Satan, God and I worked together to seal away something very bad. Say, you actually knew God? Satan, yes. And he and I had similar goals. To see our people united. Peace between the factions. Issei, but that didn't happen. Satan, no. With no one to stop Lucifer, I'm certain a war broke out between the three factions. But I used the last of my power as a catalyst for your BR. However, I didn't want you to be born in an age of war. So I put some stipulations on your BRH. Issei, what kind? Satan, 2. 1. If there was ever a chance that peace could be established between the three factions, then you would be born. Say, and the second. Satan. Lucifer has to die. Because with him alive, there will never be a chance for peace. And if he knew of your existence, then he'd hunt you down without question. Issei shuddered at the thought of someone like Lucifer coming after him and his family. Satan, but now that you're here, that means there's a chance. A chance for peace to be achieved. And you, Issei, are the one who will lead them to that peace. Issei, but I'm just a kid. Satan, smiles, don't worry. I'll be here to help you get used to your new powers. Issei, powers. Satan, yes. As my son, you've inherited my power and abilities. And now that I can communicate with you, that means they've awakened. Close your eyes. Issei was skeptical at first, but decided to trust Satan and closed his eyes. Satan then placed his hand on Issei's chest, and Issei felt a surge of energy flow through him before it was suddenly controlled. Issei, what was that? Satan, that was the demonic power that courses through you being fully awakened. Can you feel it? Issei looked at his hands, feeling a weird, tingly sensation, like he was full of energy, but it was calm and collected. So, does this mean I have magic? Like in the movies? Satan, chuckles, it's way better than what you've seen in movies. I'll show you how to use your power, and as time goes on, you'll become the one that will bring peace to the supernatural world. Issei listened to Satan essentially call him the chosen one. To say he was a little overwhelmed would be an understatement. Here he was, just a normal 8-year-old boy, now being told he was destined to bring peace to the supernatural world. He didn't even know it existed 20 minutes ago. Satan noticed the overwhelmed expression on Issei's face and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Satan, I know you must be overwhelmed. But don't worry. I'll be here to guide you every step of the way. Issei, promise. Satan, I swear on my honor. Issei looked into Satan's eyes, the same red color that reflected his own. Even though he had just met Satan, he felt he could trust him with his life. Issei suddenly hugged Satan, akin to a son embracing his father. Satan was a little surprised by the sudden action but hugged him back. Issei, thank you. Satan, of course, my son. Satan looked at Issei as he embraced him. Satan, you're gonna change the world, Issei. I just know it. As the years went on, Issei continued to live his life as the adopted son of the hiatus. After his first meeting with his father, Satan, he immediately started training to use and control his abilities. To keep Issei hidden and protect his adoptive parents, Satan had a seal placed on Issei to suppress his power, ensuring he wouldn't accidentally hurt them if he lost control. Over the years, More children came and went until it was just Issei left. Once that happened, Kuoh and Mickey decided to close the orphanage and live as a family of 3. However, an incident led to Issei revealing his powers to his parents. One night, a group of thugs broke into the house, hoping to steal some money. They snuck in, but they weren't quiet enough. Kuoh and Mickey were woken up by strange noises coming from the first floor. They couldn't call the police because the house phone was downstairs, and neither of them owned cell phones. They hoped the intruders would leave, but that didn't happen. The burglars broke down the door to their room and took them hostage. Kuoh tried to fight back but ended up getting hurt. The commotion woke Issei, who stepped out of his room to find a group of masked men attacking his father. In that moment, he felt a surge of anger for the first time in his life. As the burglars noticed Issei, Kuoh and Mickey begged them to leave their son alone. One of the burglars approached Issei with a smug grin, raising his hand to strike. But before he could, Issei caught his fist, shocking everyone in the room. The burglar struggled to free himself, but Issei's grip was unyielding. When Issei looked up, his eyes glowed with intensity, filled with a fierce determination. He pushed his free hand forward, and an invisible force sent the burglar crashing into a wall, knocking him out. The other burglars were paralyzed with fear, unable to move as Issei's dark red aura began to emanate from him. Kuoh and Mickey, however, saw not a monster but their son, who was fiercely protecting them. As Issei took a step forward, the remaining burglars scrambled to escape, rushing out of the house in terror. Issei was about to chase after them, but Mickey gently stopped him. Reality hit him hard. He had revealed something he had tried to keep hidden, and he feared his parents would see him differently. Mickey turned his head to face her, encouraging him to open his eyes. When he did, he found not fear but smiles on their faces, grateful for his bravery. Overwhelmed with emotion, Issei shed joyful tears, relieved that they still saw him as their child. They embraced, and Issei sobbed lightly in their arms. Later, the police were called to arrest the burglar who had been knocked out. Kuoh fabricated a story about how he managed to fend off the others and knock one out. The police accepted his account, and Kuoh was taken to the hospital for his injuries. The arrested burglar woke up with memory loss and couldn't recall the events of the night. The other 4 burglars were never found, prompting Kuoh to suggest moving to a different house in a more populated area. After the incident, Kuoh and Mickey had a serious conversation with Issei about his abilities. They advised him never to reveal them in public, as people often fear what they don't understand. Issei understood and reassured them that he was aware of this fear. They smiled, affirming their love for him regardless of his powers. Reflecting on a conversation with Tuji, they realized why he had asked them to look after Issei and what he meant by saying he was special. Years passed, and Issei continued to live his life, training with Satan in his mindscape and gaining full control of his powers. Now 18 and in his second year of high school, he was preparing for the time when he would help unite the 3 factions in peace. When that moment arrived, he would be ready. Powers and abilities flight. As a devil, Issei can use his wings to fly at incredible speeds. Immense demonic power. Issei is the Antichrist, inheriting all of Satan's demonic power, placing him at the level of a super devil. Unholy light. A unique ability of the Satan clan, it allows Issei to create dark light-based weapons such as spears, arrows, and swords. This power can cause severe damage to angels and fallen angels. Power of darkness. This is considered Issei's most powerful ability, creating a miasma of pure darkness that devours everything it touches. It can also be solidified for powerful physical attacks. Dark satanic armor. The true form of Issei's power of darkness. This armor covers his body and solidifies to become as hard as dragon scales, taking on a dragon-like form with 7 heads, each adorned with a crimson jewel. It dramatically enhances his physical and magical abilities. Holy immunity. This ability renders Issei immune to all holy attacks, making him a formidable opponent for angels and fallen angels. Demonic integration. Issei can absorb a portion of a devil's demonic power, gaining their special abilities. Shadow body. Issei can transform into a massless form, allowing physical and magical attacks to pass through him, though he cannot attack in this state. Dragonification. Issei can transform parts of his body into that of a dragon, significantly increasing his physical abilities. Mark of Satan. As the son of Satan, Issei bears a mark that signifies loyalty. Those who have the mark can borrow some of his demonic power. Hand-to-hand mastery. Trained extensively in various martial arts, Issei has mastered multiple forms of combat. Weapons mastery. To fully utilize his unholy light powers, Issei has learned to wield various weapons effectively. Likes. His family, friends, peace, good music, reading, and spending time with loved ones. Dislikes. Racists, bullies, liars, and anyone who threatens his loved ones. Lovers. Rias Gremory, Akino Himena, Irina Shidu, Zenobia Quarta, Kaneko Tuju, Rosweiss, and Ravel Phoenix. Asia will be more of a little sister figure to Issei. Chapter and Issei POV today was just like any other day. School was going by rather normally, and right now I'm relaxing on a grassy slope in front of the track field. I was with my friends, Matsuda and Motohama, who were known as the perverted duo. Despite their antics, they were two of the most chill guys I knew. Issei, what's the matter, guys? Matsuda, like you don't know. We're in a place that, up until a few years ago, was nothing but girls. Motohama, we had to take advantage of this male-to-female ratio. The foreign exchange students here are ridiculous. Matsuda, we figured girls would be lining up to get on our jocks, and we wouldn't have to do a thing. Motohama, like our very own HR. At least that was the plan. We're in the spring semester of our second year, and neither of us had a single girl show any interest in us. Sighs, it's all pointless. Issei, oh come on. It can't be that bad. Matsuda, easy for you to say, pretty boy. I'm pretty sure you've had at least 7 different girls ask you out this semester alone. Motohama, now that you mention it, yeah. How is it that you've got girls lining up to get a piece of you? Matsuda, come on man, hook us up. We're supposed to be boys, aren't we? Issei, will you two chill out? Just then, the sound of a group of girls squealing in delight caught my attention. We turned to see 3 girls approaching a boy with blonde hair and grayish-blue eyes, who had a small mole under his left eye. Girl 1, Kiba, wait up. What are you doing right now? Girl 2, yeah. You maybe want to go sing karaoke with us. Kiba, thanks, but I've got a meeting with my club. Girls, Kiba, smiles, I really do wish I could go though. It's very cool of you ladies to invite me. Kiba then walks away while the girls look starstruck. Motohama, Kiba Yuto. Class 2C. You and him are one in the same. Every girl in the school wants to be with you too. Issei, I don't know about that. Matsuda, god damn it. I don't get it. What's the secret, man? Come and tell us. Issei, there is no secret. Maybe if you guys weren't constantly focusing on the girls in this school, then you'd both have girlfriends right now. Motohama, we can't help that we're connoisseurs of the female form. Issei, sighs, oh come on. Matsuda, oh shoot. I'm gonna be late. Issei, late for what? Class doesn't start for another 15 minutes. Matsuda then gained a goofy look on his face, and Issei already knew what he was going to do. Issei, no, I'm good. You guys go have fun. Matsuda, suit yourself. Come on, Motohama. Motohama, right behind you. They both sprinted off to wherever they were going. Issei sighed, thinking one day, those two are going to dig themselves into a hole they won't be able to get out of. He decided to wait by the old school building because he knew they'd need help when they were inevitably caught. It wasn't long before he heard the sound of screaming from both girls and 2 boys. Issei, sighs, here we go. Matsuda and Motohama ran around the corner, and as soon as they saw Issei, it was like they saw the light at the end of a dark tunnel. Matsuda, bro, help us. They immediately jumped into the bushes next to him. Not long after, a group of girls from the kendo club came around the corner. Issei thought, really guys? The kendo club? They're seriously playing with fire. The co-captains of the kendo club, Murayama and Keitase, walked up to him. Murayama, Issei. Keitase, did you see those 2 pervs you hang out with run by here? And don't lie. A part of Issei wanted to rat them out, but they were his friends. Issei, yeah, they went that way, towards the track and field. He could tell by their expressions that they were searching for any signs of deception. Unfortunately for them, he had an unbreakable poker face. Murayama, all right. Thanks for pointing them out. The kendo club ran off to look for Matsuda and Motohama. Once they were gone, Issei looked back at the bushes. Issei, sighs, all right. They're gone. Matsuda and Motohama, our hero. They jumped out of the bushes and hugged him while pretending to cry. Motohama, thanks for saving us, man. Issei, all right, get off. Afterward, they all sat down and started talking. Issei, seriously. The kendo club. Are you trying to get in trouble? Matsuda, that wasn't the plan. Motohama, but it was oh so worth it. Issei, sighs, you two are crazy. Motohama, Issei, if you could have seen what we saw, you'd be singing a different tune. Issei, I doubt it. But are you guys seriously satisfied with just looking at a girl? Don't you actually want to date someone? Matsuda, it's not that simple, bro. Motohama, yeah. Of course, we want to actually get girlfriends. But who would want to be seen with a couple of losers like us? So looking is all we can do. Issei, you two are downplaying yourselves way too much. Matsuda and Motohama, huh? Issei, do you really see yourselves as nothing but losers? Because that's not the case. Matsuda, you're in shape and really athletic. And Motohama, you're probably the smartest guy in our grade. Those are some of the best qualities that a girl would look for in a potential boyfriend. And you two have decent looks. Matsuda and Motohama, really? Issei, yes really. I guarantee you if you tone down the antics, then you'd get attention from girls. Matsuda and Motohama looked like they were actually considering it. Just then Issei felt like someone was looking at him. He turned his head and looked up to see a girl with long crimson hair looking down at him from the second story of the old school building. Her name is Rias Gremery. She's probably the most popular girl in school, a third-year student, and the president of the Occult Research Club. Matsuda and Motohama followed his gaze and saw Rias looking at them as well. After a few seconds, she went back into the building. Motohama, man, did you see her? Matsuda, oh yeah. I've seen her before but I haven't really talked to her. Meanwhile, Rias went back to sit down at a table with a chessboard on it. She looked to her left at another girl with long raven hair tied into a ponytail. This is Akino Himejima, vice president of the ORC. Rias, who was that boy? Akino, what boy? Rias, the one in the middle, with black hair and red eyes. Akino, oh him. His name is Issei Hayadu. He's a second year in class 2B, if I'm not mistaken. Why do you ask? Rias, something about him seems unusual. Have you ever seen him around? Akino, Besides passing by him in the hallways occasionally, I've never spoken with him. Rias, I see. Check me by the way. Akino, Rias, I was able to spot your trap from a mile away. Akino, I tried my very best to make it difficult for you. Rias, I'm sure you did your best. Better luck next time. Time skipped. The school day had ended, and Issei was on his way home. As he walked through the park, he noticed it was unusually empty for a 4 o'clock afternoon. Using his magic sense, he scanned the area but found no human sources nearby, except for one. He quickly turned around just in time to avoid a spear made of light that flew past him, hitting a water fountain and destroying it. The attacker was a woman with long black hair, dressed in a striking outfit, and sporting fallen angel wings. Chuckles, wow, nice reflexes. Maybe this won't be as boring as I thought. Issei, mind telling me who you are, and why you just tried to kill me? What the hell? You're about to die anyway, so I'll consider it a last request. The woman summoned another light spear and pointed it at Issei. Rainer, I am Rainer. My boss has deemed you too dangerous to be left alive, so I have to kill you now. Rainer threw the spear at Issei's feet, and it began to glow. Issei quickly jumped away as it exploded. While still in the air, he noticed Rainer preparing to throw another spear. Rainer, Smirks bye-bye, little boy. She threw the spear, but Issei caught it effortlessly. Rainier, what? Issei spread his devil wings, which were a deep shade of crimson. He held her spear to his side, shocking Rainier, who couldn't comprehend how a devil could handle a light weapon without harm. Rainier, how? That's not possible. She watched in disbelief as her spear changed color from pink to black, surrounded by dark energy. Issei, I think you lost this. He threw the spear back at her with great force. She barely avoided it, but it scratched her cheek, causing her to hiss in pain. Rainier, what is this? As Issei landed, he began to approach her, summoning a sword that radiated unholy energy. Terrified, Rainier retreated, spreading her wings and flying away at incredible speed. Issei watched her flee, but his attention shifted to a red magic circle that appeared nearby. Realizing he was releasing his demonic power, he quickly reined it in as 4 figures emerged from the circle: Rias Gremory, Akino Himejima, Kiba Yuto, and a girl with white hair and golden eyes, Kaneko Tuju. When they arrived, they were on guard. Issei knew they felt his magic power and came to investigate. He put away his sword and turned to face Rias and her group. Rias cautiously approached him, flanked by the others. Rias, hold on a second. You're Issei Hayadu, right? I saw you and your friends outside the old school building earlier today. Say, that's me. Rias, so, you're the one who gave off that magic power a couple of minutes ago. Issei, size looks like the cat's out of the bag. It was me. Rias looked back at the others, then back at Issei. Rias, what happened here? Issei, I was attacked by a fallen angel. Rias, a fallen angel. Where did it go? Issei, she took off just before you guys showed up. Rias, you drove her off. Are you okay? Issei, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Rias instructed the others to be on the lookout for any further surprises and stepped closer to Issei. Rias, I can tell that you aren't human from the power I felt from you. What devil clan do you belong to? Before Issei could answer, he heard a voice in his head. Satan, don't tell her about yourself. Not yet. Say you don't know, and that you weren't born in the underworld. Issei, so a half-truth. Satan, yes. The time to reveal yourself will come. Just not today. Issei, Devil Clan. I don't know. I was born on Earth, not the underworld. Rias, really? Interesting. Would you mind coming with us? Issei, do I have a choice? Rias, I can't force you, but I just want to talk about who you are. My servants, and I mean you no harm, I promise. Issei considered her request. He asked Satan what he should do, and Satan suggested he see what Rias wanted to discuss. Worst case, Issei felt strong enough to defend himself against the 4 devils. Issei, all right. I'll go with you. Rias, smiles, thank you. I just want to talk. The others joined Rias at her side, and Akino created the same magic circle they arrived in. Rias pulled out an amulet and handed it to Issei. Put this on. It'll allow you to teleport with us, she instructed. Issei took the amulet and put it on. He stood in the circle, and they were teleported back to the school, specifically to the old school building. They arrived in a Victorian-style room with a wooden desk and 2 sofas. Where are we? Issei asked, looking around. Rias smiled and approached. Her desk. This is our club room. Welcome to the Occult Research Club. Nice. So what now? Issei inquired. Now we can talk, Rias replied. I'll go make some tea, Akino offered. Thank you, Akino, Rias said, turning to Issei. Please, make yourself comfortable. Akino went into another room, while Rias sat at her desk. Kaneko settled on one of the sofas, and Kiba stood by the window. Issei sat down on the sofa opposite Kaneko. After a few minutes of silence, Akino returned with a cart and a pot of tea. She poured Rias a cup, then Issei. Thank you, Issei said, taking a sip. Oh wow. This is good. You're welcome, Akino smiled. She served tea to the others, and Rias looked at Issei. Now then, let me introduce everyone. My name is Rias Gremory, President of the Occult Research Club. This is Akino Himejima, Vice President. Akino smiled and waved, and Issei returned the gesture. That's Kiba Yuto, Rias continued. It's nice to meet you, Kiba said. Likewise, Issei replied. And that's Kaneko Tuju. Sup, Kaneko said. Sup, Issei echoed. Rias stood up and moved to the front of her desk. Now, I'm sure you already know this, but we're devils. As she spoke, all of them spread their devil wings. Issei maintained eye contact with Rias. Now then, would you mind telling us about yourself? Rias asked. Issei sat on the couch in the ORC clubroom. Everyone had just introduced themselves as devils, and he was asked to do the same. He stood up and spread his own devil wings, catching everyone by surprise. His wings, Kiba murmured. They're red. Akino added. Issei had multiple pairs of wings but chose to show only one pair, wanting to keep some of his secrets. I've never seen a devil with red wings before. Who are you? Rias asked. I don't know. I was born in the human realm, and both my parents are human, Issei replied. I see. Rias searched his expression for any signs of deception but found none. What he said was a half-truth. He was born in the human realm, and both his parents were human, but he was also the son of Satan. However, they didn't need to know that now. Well, if you don't know who you are, then perhaps I can offer you some assistance in finding out, Rias suggested. Really? How? Issei asked, intrigued. Let's just say I have a lot of connections in the underworld. Maybe through some research, we can find answers about devils with red wings. Rias proposed. You'd really be willing to do that for someone you just met? Issei questioned. True, we did just meet. But something about you gives me a good feeling. My intuition hasn't led me astray yet, so why not? Yes. Issei prompted. I would ask you for a tiny favor, Rias said. I see. What kind of favor? Issei inquired. Before that, let me explain a few things. First, since you were born here in the human realm, I assume you don't know much about how devils work. Rias began. No, I don't, Issei admitted. I figured as much. Well, for starters, Akino, Kaneko, and Kiba aren't just fellow devils. They are my devil servants, Rias explained. Servants? Issei echoed. Yes. You see, at one point, none of them were devils, Rias continued. So, you were all human once? Issei asked. Kiba nodded, but Issei noticed Akino and Kaneko hesitated before nodding as well. He wondered why but brushed it aside for now. So, how did they become devils? Issei asked. With ease. Rias reached into a drawer on her desk and pulled out a fancy-looking case. She opened it and revealed a bright red chess piece. Is that a chess piece? Issei asked. On the surface. But it's actually much more than that. This is called an evil piece. Issei could feel power radiating from the chess piece. Evil piece, he repeated. A little history lesson about your people. A long time ago, our faction, the devils, were at war with two other factions, the angels and the fallen angels. This resulted in the deaths of millions of devils, nearly driving us to extinction. After a ceasefire was established, we needed ways to bring our numbers back up. That's when one of our leaders came up with a solution. The evil pieces. Say guess. Exactly. With these, a devil of high class or nobility can reincarnate humans into devils, Rias explained. High class. So, if you have a set, then. Issei began. Smiles. When I said I have a lot of connections, I wasn't lying. So, what does this have to do with the favor you want? Issei asked. Well, Issei, I want you to join my household as one of my devil servants. Issei had a feeling she would ask that. The idea of giving up his freedom was daunting, but Rias sensed his hesitation. I know what I'm asking is a big ask. But rest assured, the Gremory family treats all their servants like family. You won't be mistreated if that's your concern, Rias assured him. I appreciate that. But I'm still going to have to decline your offer. I just don't feel comfortable handing over my freedom. Rias looked at Issei with a disappointed but understanding expression. I understand, she said softly. Plus, I don't necessarily need to know my lineage. I have my parents, and that's all I need. Ria sighed. When you put it that way, I guess you do have a point. Very well. I completely understand. She put the evil pieces away and placed the case back into the drawer. Turning to Issei, she continued, still though, would you at least consider an alliance between us? If you won't join my household, I'd at least want you as an ally. Sure. I can do that. Ria smiled. Excellent. She stood up and they shook hands, forming their new alliance. If you have time, I'd like to introduce you to another devil household that runs this town. Maybe some other time. I really should be getting home now. Alright, but one last thing before you leave. Do you know why the fallen angel attacked you? Honestly, I have no idea. All she said was that her boss deemed me too dangerous to live. I see. How about you stop by tomorrow? We'll discuss this in greater detail. Alright, I'll swing by tomorrow. Until then, good night, everyone. Everyone bid Issei farewell, and he left the room, making his way back home. He had to explain to his parents why he came home so late, but he told them he had joined a new club and they had to stay late for club work, which was technically correct. The next day, Issei entered class in the morning and sat down in his seat, letting out a long yawn due to lack of sleep the previous night. Yo, you good, bro? Matsuda asked. Yeah. Just didn't get much sleep last night. Issei replied, his mind wandering about recent events, particularly why the fallen angels were targeting him. After class, as Issei was about to leave, he heard some girls squealing in delight. He turned to see them surrounding Kiba. Hey Kiba, one girl said. What are you doing here? Another asked. Hello ladies. I'm here to see Issei. Is he here? Kiba responded. Yeah. He's over there, one girl pointed. Thank you. Excuse me. Kiba walked up to Issei and asked if he could come with him to the ORC clubhouse, mentioning that Rias had some information for him. Issei agreed, and as they made their way through the school, they received curious looks from the girls, overhearing some odd comments. Upon reaching the old school building, they went to the ORC clubroom, where Kiba knocked on the door. Rias' muffled voice came from the other side, telling them to enter. They walked in to find everyone else there. Rias was at her desk. Akino stood next to her with a cart of tea, and Kaneko was sitting on a couch eating a donut. Issei, thank you for coming, Rias said. Yeah. Kiba said something about you having some info for me. Yes. Please, take a seat. Issei sat down on the sofa opposite Kaneko, and Rias stood in front of her desk as Akino placed a cup of tea in front of him. Thank you, Issei said. You're welcome, Akino smiled. Now then, I have some information about the fallen angels that are after you, Rias began. I'm listening. Last night, after you left, we had our familiars comb the town to try and find any signs of fallen angels. I believe we found their base of operations. Is that so? Or are they? I'm not 100% sure, but there were signs of holy magic at the old abandoned church at the edge of town. A church, huh? Seems fitting. So, now all that's left to do is find out how many are there. That's true. My gut tells me that Rainier isn't the only one after me. I'll have my familiar watch over the church and see if they are there. All right. Now then, on to a different subject. Would you mind helping us with something? Help with what exactly? You should know something about Devil Society first. I already explained how peerages work, right? Well, there are instances where servants go stray. Stray. Yes. When a servant abandons or kills their emissary, they get branded as a stray. When a stray enters our territory, it falls on us to find and eliminate that stray. Eliminate, not capture. Yes. Most, if not all strays are sentenced to death as soon as they abandon or kill their etis. Even if we did capture them, they'd just be executed by someone else. Issei thought about her words. He knew Rias treated her servants like family, but he wasn't naive enough to think all high-class devils did the same. What if someone had a really good reason for going stray? Did they not get to explain their side of the story? What if the stray had a good reason? Issei asked. Pardon? I'm asking what if the stray had a good reason for leaving or killing their entis? Like, what if the emissary was abusive and the servant snapped? That's a question we've had ourselves. But most, if not all cases aren't like that. I get your concerns, but every record of a devil servant going stray has been because they wanted to pursue their own selfish desires, which are usually malevolent in nature. I see. Issei understood, but a nagging feeling lingered in the back of his mind. Anyways, the reason I brought this up is because I've received an order to hunt down a stray devil that has been sighted in Kuoh. I was hoping you'd accompany us on our hunt. Issei. Alright, I'll join you guys. Rias, great. We'll begin after school. Reports say that the stray only comes out at night. Later on, Rias and her peerage, along with Issei, went to the edge of town to a huge abandoned house. As they approached, Aquino gave a rundown on the reports surrounding the stray. Aquino, so, according to reports, this stray has been luring people into this house. Tonight's job shouldn't be too hard. Just find the beast and eliminate it. Kiba, these monsters are pure evil. They don't care about anything but their own selfish desires, and that always ends in ugliness. They entered the house and began to look around for any signs of the stray devil. Kaneko. It's here. The sound of a woman's voice could be heard. Now, what could that foul smell be? Something smells quite delicious as well. I wonder if it tastes sweet or bitter. From around a pillar, a woman with long black hair appeared. Rias, Visser Urech. You betrayed your emissary and ran away to fulfill desires that have consumed you. Your sins are worthy of 1,000 hells. In the name of the great Marquis of Gremory, prepare to meet your end. Visser, oh just give it a rest. You've always had it in for me. You're just jealous. As she said that, Visser made a provocative gesture. Issei looked at her in disgust. Rias, this is your final warning. Go back to your emissary now. Visser stepped out of the shadows, revealing her lower half to be that of a chimera. Issei, what the hell is she? Kiba, see what I mean? When I said it ends in ugliness, I wasn't joking. Just then, magic circles appeared. Issei, you've got to be kidding. From those magic circles, energy blasts were fired, making everyone jump for cover. Issei, can this get any weirder? Rias, Issei, are you alright? Issei, I'm fine. Rias, Kiba. Kiba suddenly vanished from sight. Issei, DMN he's fast. Rias, yes. Kiba is my knight. His attribute is speed, and his ultimate attack weapon is his sword. Kiba then sliced off the arms of the chimera, making Visser cry out in pain. Kaneko walked up to Visser, and the torso of the chimera opened up like a mouth, swallowing her whole. Issei looked concerned, but Rias reassured him that she was just fine. Just then, Kaneko pried open the mouth from the inside, emerging without a struggle. Issei's POV, I offered my hand to the girl who had fallen over. Issei, do you need some help, Mississippi? She took my hand and got to her feet. After dusting off her clothes, she looked at me with a contagious smile. Asia, thank you, kind sir. My name is Asia. Asia Argento. Issei, it's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Argento. I'm Issei Hayadu. Asia, nice to meet you as well. And please, call me Asia. Issei, very well, Asia. Her smile. It's almost blinding. I can tell just by looking at her that she's probably the most gentle soul in the world. Issei, anyway, are you new in town? You don't look like you're from around here. Asia, I am. I'm actually coming from Italy. I was transferred to a church in Kuoh Town. The church. I remember Rias saying something about finding traces of holy magic in the area. Is Asia with them? No, I suspect she's probably being used by them in some way. She's too innocent. Asia, I'm sick. Are you okay? I'm fine. Clears throat. So, you said you're looking for the church. Asia, yes. But I'm not from around here, and I don't know my way around. Would you mind helping me? Issei, I'd like to help. But I think you're out of luck. The only church in town is that one. I pointed to the church on the edge of town. Asia followed my gaze and spotted the church. Asia, oh that must be it. Issei, hold on, that church has been abandoned for years. Asia, really? Why does it hurt to see her look so sad? Issei, sorry. Maybe there was a mistake in sending you here. Asia, no, it's okay. And I'm positive there wasn't a mix-up. Issei. Listen, since the church is a bust, do you have anywhere else to go? Asia. No, I don't unfortunately. I know this is super forward on my part, but how about you stay with my parents and me? Asia. Really? I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a bother. Issei. I'm sure once I explain to my mom and dad that you don't have anywhere else to go, they'll be happy to help. Asia. Alright. If you say it's okay, then I'll go with you. Bose, thank you so much. This girl. She's too sweet for this world. We started walking back to my house. I remembered both mom and dad having the day off, so they should be home still. As we were walking, we both heard the sound of a little boy crying. We looked to see he had fallen and scraped his knee. Before I could do anything, Asia ran up to the boy and kneeled down to him. Asia, oh you poor boy. Don't worry, I'll fix this right up. She held her hands over the boy's scraped knee, and a green glow enveloped it. Satan, interesting. Issei, what is it? Satan, this girl. Asia Argento. She has a sacred gear. Say, is that what that glow is? Satan, yes. And son. Issei, yes. Satan, good call on not taking her to that church. If she was really supposed to go there. I'm sure the fallen angels have some plans for her. Issei, and whatever those plans are, it's nothing good. Satan, agreed. The scrape on the boy's knee healed as the green glow faded. The boy looked at his knee, then at Asia with a smile. Boy, well, thank you, miss. The boy stood up and ran off. Asia smiled and waved goodbye before rejoining me, and we continued walking to my house. Asia, I'm sorry about earlier. You must have been surprised. Say, no, not at all. That's some power you've got there. Asia, smiles, thank you. I've had this power to heal others for as long as I can remember. I truly see it as a gift from God. But that smile, why does she seem sad? Once we got back to my house, my parents were still in the living room, and I introduced Asia to them. After explaining her situation, they were more than happy to help her. Without any delays, I had about 10 minutes before school started. No issue. I just had to sprint. Okay, I may have overdone it. I ended up sprinting through a more populated part of town, and I may have startled a few people as I ran past them. I also had to stop myself from running full speed into the school, but at least I made it with a few minutes to spare. The school day went on without much happening, and now I was about to head home. But before I could leave, I felt someone tug on my sleeve. I turned around to see Kaneko looking as stoic as ever. Issei, hey, what's up? Kaneko, I need a favor. Say, what kind of favor? Kaneko, come with me to the clubroom. Rias will explain better than I will. Say, all right, lead the way. Kaneko and I made our way to the ORC clubroom. I wondered what this favor entailed, but I was sure Rias would explain. Once we were inside, Rias got up from her desk, and Akino entered from a side room. Rias, hello Issei. I see Kaneko approached you with her favor. Thought she hasn't explained what it is. Rias, I can do that. You see, as devils, we offer humans power or services in exchange for packs. Issei, I'm assuming this has something to do with the peerage system. Rias, precisely. It's one of the ways a devil can get promoted to high class. Issei, I see. Now, where does this favor come in? Rias, Kaneko has been summoned by 2 of her regulars. Kiba is already off doing his own summon, and Akino will be busy soon with her own summon. So, I suggested she ask you for help. Kaneko, that'd be super rad, Issei. Alright, just tell me what I need to do. Rias, perfect. Here, please hold out your hand. I held my hand out to her, and she traced a pattern on the back of it. Issei, what's this? Rias, proof that you represent the House of Gremory. The client will wonder why Kaneko isn't there and will most likely question you. Just show them that sigil, and they'll understand. Say, Rias handed me an amulet she had given me when we first met. Rias, remember this. That lets me teleport with you guys, right? Rias, yes, but it also allows us to send you somewhere. Put it on, and we'll send you straight to the client. When you get there, just do whatever they ask of you, and once you do that, you can keep whatever they pay you. Sounds easy enough. Aquino made a magic circle on the ground, and I stood in the center. After a few seconds, I was transported to the client's house. I appeared in the front hallway of a dimly lit home. Issei, talk about mood lighting. What kind of request are they gonna make? I walked into the house and stepped into some unknown liquid. Say, what the? Satan, guard up, Hudson. I touched the unknown liquid and discovered it was BLD. That's when I felt a presence in the living room. Approaching slowly, the first thing I saw was a disturbing scene. Punish the wicked. I turned to see a man with silver hair sitting on a couch. Words to live by. Wise advice to heed from a holy man. The man stood up, revealing he was wearing what looked to be church robes. Freed. Well, you just walked into the wrong house, my friend. Freed Cell Zen here at your service. And you must be the scared little one whose devil this priest is gonna exorcise. Issei, a priest. Last I recall, priests don't run around harming innocent humans. Freed, well, summoning you is proof that he's done being human. End of the line, sinner. So I had to put an end to him. Putting down devils and the lost souls that would cry to them is my job after all. And no one is better at it than me. So now, I'm gonna cut out your heart with my heavenly blade, then with my righteous gun, I'm gonna blow a hole in your wicked demon face. How does that sound, devil? Freed lunged at me, aiming his sword for my head. I jumped back to avoid his strike, but he fired his gun instead. The bullet hit my leg. It hurt, but I managed to push through the pain. Freed looked surprised. These bullets are supposed to be blessed by an exorcist. How is it that you're not in excruciating pain? Guess you loaded the wrong mag. I started to release my aura and lunged at Freed, punching him square in the chest. He was sent flying into the next room. I checked my wound. Luckily, the bullet went straight through. I tore the sleeve of my shirt and tied it tightly above the wound. Freed stumbled back into the room. You must be that brat that Rainier warned us about. The devil who's somehow immune to holy magic. Connected to Rainier and the other fallen angels. That must mean you're not really with the church. No matter, this changes nothing. Just because you're immune to blessed bullets doesn't mean you're invincible. Freed jumped at me again, trying to slash with his sword. After dodging his initial swings, I summoned my own sword to combat him. Compared to the swordsmanship my father taught me, he was barely a challenge. After a bit of fighting, I parried a diagonal slash, leaving his guard open. I hit him with a back fist, sending him crashing into a wall. He lost his sword but pulled out his gun and started shooting at me. I managed to deflect his bullets. Sheet. This isn't going well for me. I'm gonna need some backup. As I approached him, a strange portal appeared above his head. Right on time. From the portal came Rainier, followed by 3 more fallen angels. One was a middle-aged man in a gray trench coat and fedora. The other 2 were a woman with long blue hair in a maroon blazer and a little girl with blonde twin tails in a black and white outfit. Freed stood up and joined them. You've got perfect timing, he said. Seems you've gotten yourself into some trouble, Freed. Rainier looked at me, her nervousness evident. The fact that they outnumbered me 5-1 gave her some confidence. Well. We meet again. This is the one you told us about. One of the fallen angels asked. The one who made you run with your tail tucked. Rainier glared at the little girl. Shut up, Middlet. Then she turned her gaze back to me. But yes, this is the one I told you all about. Issei Hayudu. They all summoned their spears. I could take them all, but my leg was starting to feel numb from the makeshift tourniquet, and I didn't want to take any chances. I needed a way out. The amulet. I grabbed it, and the Gremory magic circle appeared beneath me. In an instant I was gone. Reappeared in the ORC club room, where everyone was present. I bet they expected me to show up with a successful pact. Instead, I arrived with a sword in hand and a bullet wound in my leg. Oh my Satan! Rias exclaimed. Are you okay? Aquino asked. I walked with a limp over to the couch and sat down. I'm fine. It was a setup. There was a priest waiting at the location. Everyone looked surprised. A priest? Keeber exclaimed. That's not good. What happened? Rias asked. When I arrived, he had already killed the contact. We ended up fighting for a bit, and as you can see, he landed a shot on me. You said he killed the contact. Rias said, concerned. Yeah. Then it must have been a stray priest. Regular priests don't kill innocent humans. Also, you said he used a gun. Was it a holy gun? To us. If it was a holy gun, how are you not in more pain right now? Kiba asked. I realized I couldn't lie my way through this one. Holy magic has no effect on me. Everyone gasped in shock. A devil having complete resistance to holy magic would surprise anyone. How is that possible? Rias asked. I don't know exactly. But when I was younger, I had a friend whose family often went to church, and she would always invite me. You went to church. And I guess you weren't uncomfortable or didn't feel bad at all. Kiba inquired. No. I even still have the cross she gave me. Does this friend of yours know you're a devil? Rias asked. I haven't seen her in years, but when we were kids, I didn't even know I was a devil. So I doubt she knows. Actually, Irina's dad worked for the church. I remember that much from when I was a kid. So, is it possible he might have known and told her? The question for later, I suppose. So you can touch holy items and be inside a church without feeling any discomfort. So, do the fallen angels know about your resistance to holy magic? Unfortunately, I also forgot to mention, for fallen angels showed up shortly after my fight with the stray priest. So that's why you came back. That was the smart thing to do. We should really treat his wound, Aquino said. Right? Rias agreed. Aquino treated my bullet wound and wrapped some medical bandages around it. Afterwards, Kaneko apologized profusely for my injury, feeling guilty because she had asked me to perform a summon meant for her. I reassured her that she had no way of knowing it was a setup. Still feeling bad, I jokingly asked her for one of her chocolate bars to call it even. She agreed and I headed home. Once I arrived, my parents immediately noticed the large bandage on my leg. Tonight was the night all my secrets would come to light. I had to tell them everything. How the ORC was a club of devils, how they had asked me for a favor that led to my injury, and that I was currently being targeted by a group of fallen angels. My mom scolded me for keeping secrets, but after she calmed down, she forgave me. I'm really sorry for not telling you guys. I just didn't want you to worry too much, I said. Of course we'd worry. You're our son, my mom replied. She's right, bud. We know you're capable, but that won't stop us from worrying about your safety, my dad added. I know. And again, I'm very sorry, I said, bowing slightly. My mom smiled and said, apology accepted, sweetie. They both hugged me, and after the embrace, I remembered something. By the way, Asia. I started. Oh, yes, she replied. I have a hunch that these fallen angels are after you as well. Asia looked a little scared, so I gently patted her head. Don't worry, I'll do everything I can to keep you safe. But until this situation is resolved, I don't want you leaving the house, I reassured her. I trust you, Issei, she said. Mom, Dad, will you continue to look after Asia when I'm not here? I asked. Of course, my dad replied. We'll do all we can to keep her safe, my mom added. Thank you, I said. After our talk, I went upstairs to turn in for the night. It wasn't long before Asia came knocking on my door. Can I come in? She asked. Sure. What's up? I replied. Asia entered the room and closed the door behind her. Does your leg hurt? She asked. It's nothing. I'll be fine come morning, I assured her. Still, would you let me take a look? She insisted. All right, I said, unwrapping the bandage and showing her the wound. The bleeding had stopped, but there was still a hole in my leg. Asia wasted no time using her sacred gear to heal it. I noticed the glow came from the 2 rings on her fingers. Once the glow faded, my leg was completely healed, as if I had never been injured at all. That ability of yours is incredible. Thank you, Asia, I said. You're welcome. It doesn't hurt at all, right? She asked. Nope. Like it never even happened, I replied. Thank God, she sighed. Must have been a shock to find out I'm a devil, huh? I said. I'll admit I was a little surprised. But that doesn't matter to me, she responded. Just because you're a devil doesn't mean you're bad. I know that as a nun I should be afraid of you. But I'm not. In the short time I've known you, I can tell you're a good person, she continued. So, smiles devil or not, I hope we can remain friends, she said. Of course, I smiled back. If she was being targeted by the fallen angels, then I would do whatever it took to protect her. It's been a few days since my encounter with the stray priest, Fried Selzen, and the fallen angels. Since then, I've been on the lookout for any signs of their presence, but it's been quiet. That may sound good, but it has me feeling nervous. I've mostly gone straight home after school, and Rias has been giving me daily updates on anything they find, but nothing has come up. Right now, I'm sitting in class, staring out the window, my mind occupied by recent events and possible future ones. Suddenly, I heard my teacher call out to me. Still with us, Mr. Hairu, she asked. Huh. Alright, sorry. I replied, causing some students to chuckle at my daydreaming. Well then, mind telling us when the first central government was established in Japan? She asked. I stood up and answered, during the Meiji Restoration. In 1868. Correct. Please sit down. And please don't daydream so much, she said. Yes, ma'am. It won't happen again, I promised. The lesson continued, but my mind would still wander every now and then. When lunch rolled around, I was sitting in class with Matsuda and Motohama. While we ate and chatted, Matsuda noticed I was quieter than usual, staring out the window with a serious expression. Yo bro, you good? He asked. Yeah. I'm fine, I replied. Are you sure, dude? You look like you've been out of it, not just today, but the last few days, Motohama added. I sighed. I promise I'm really okay, guys. It's just been a crazy few days is all. Crazy how? If you want to talk about it. Motohama pressed. I'm fine, Motohama. I appreciate your concern. Anyway, what's new with you guys? I said, trying to change the subject. Matsuda and Motohama exchanged glances, seeing that I wanted to move on, so they went along with it. Oh. Matsuda scored a date with Keitase, Motohama said. No way. How'd that happen? I asked, intrigued. Matsuda suddenly looked proud. I took what you said about me being physically strong and athletic to heart. So, I went up to the girls' kendo club and challenged them to a fight. If I lost, they could beat me until they were satisfied. But if I won, I'd get to take Keitase out on a date. Issei, and I'm assuming you won. Motohama, you should have seen him. I had no idea he was that good with a bamboo sword. So you challenged just Keitase, or? Matsuda, oh no. I challenged all of them to a one-on-one duel. If I even lost once, then it would be over. Issei, DMN. I'm not gonna lie, that's really impressive. Also, I'm surprised that Keitase even agreed to the terms, considering how she feels about you. Motohama, I was surprised as well. But he ended up winning fair and square, so she had no choice but to accept the date. Issei, well, good for you, Matsuda. And who knows, depending on how the date goes, her opinion of you may change for the better. Matsuda, I think it already has. Issei, what do you mean? Matsuda, she thinks I don't notice, but she occasionally steals a glance at me whenever she thinks I'm not looking. I think my skills with a bamboo sword impressed her. Issei, well, there you go. They continued talking until it was time for classes to resume. After class was over, Issei was about to pack up and head home until he was approached by Kiba. Kiba, hey Issei. Issei, Kiba. What's up? Kiba, Ria sent me to get you. She says she has some new information. Issei, let's go. Issei and Kiba went to the ORC so Issei could speak to Rias. Kiba knocked on the door, and Rias gave them permission to enter. Rias, hello Kiba, Issei, thank you for coming. Issei, hello Rias. Kiba said you had some info for me. Rias, yes. Our familiars reported activity near the old abandoned church. Say, is that right? Rias, yes. It turns out a group of stray priests have been using the church as a base. If this Fried Selzen is working for the fallen angels, then there's no doubt they're there as well. Issei, I see. Then do you plan to do anything about these fallen angels and priests? Rias, I've informed the other king of this territory about the situation. Say, there's another king in Kuoh. Rias. Oh right, I suppose you didn't know. Kuoh Town is run by two high-class devils, myself and our very own student council president, Sona Citri, or as you probably know her, Shirtorai. Miss Shirtorai is a devil. I couldn't feel any demonic energy from her though. Rias, I will say that Sona is exceptionally skilled in concealing her power. So much so that she can come off as a normal human. So it's no wonder you couldn't tell. Issei, and I'm guessing the other devils in this school are a part of her peerage. Rias, correct. Anyway, back on topic. I informed Sona of the situation, and she's currently trying to find out if these fallen angels are here on orders or if they are rogues. Issei, what would be better? Rias, if they're rogues, we can simply eliminate them with no consequence. However, if they're here on orders, then that'll be a big problem. Aquino, if the fallen angels are here on official orders, then this could be the beginning of a much larger conflict, possibly a war in the worst-case scenario. Issei, that would be bad. Rias, very. So, once we have word from Sona, we'll plan from there. Until then, just keep doing what you normally do. Say, sure thing. Please inform me as soon as you hear anything. Rias, of course. After that, Issei left the room and the building to find that it had gotten darker. Issei, guess it's later than I thought. Issei left the school grounds and made his way home. As he was walking, he was suddenly hit with a sinister feeling. Issei, what is this? Gasps Dead. Issei sprinted the rest of the way home. As soon as he arrived, he saw that the front door had been busted open. He summoned his sword and ran inside. Anybody here? Satan, son, to your left. Issei looked to his left to see his mom behind the broken dining room table. Issei ran over to Mickey and kneeled down to her. Issei, are you okay? Where's Dad and Asia? She had bruises on her face, along with some cuts. Mickey. Say, I'm here, Mom. Where's Dad and Asia? Mickey weakly pointed to the corner of the room, and Goru was there unconscious. His eyes widened in horror. Goru had deep slashes all over his body. He picked his mom up and carried her over to where his dad was. He gently set her down next to him and placed his hands on Goru's shoulders, gently shaking him. Say, Dad, come on. Wake up, please. Goru coughed up some BLD and let out some wheezing breaths. Goru coughs. Sit. You're okay. Thank goodness. Issei, what happened? Where's Asia? Goru. Fallen. Angels. They took. Mickey, save your strength, dear. Fallen angels came and tried to take Asia. Your father tried to stop them, but... Issei, don't speak. Issei pulled out his phone and called 911, telling them to send an ambulance immediately. He handed the phone to Mickey and told her to stay on the line until the ambulance showed up. Issei, I'll be back. Mickey, where are you going? Issei, I'm going to get Asia back. Issei left the house. His mood, which was once a mixture of concern and fear, was now replaced with pure, unadulterated rage. His aura began to pour out, and anyone who was unfortunate enough to feel it would be hit with a suffocating feeling. Satan, Issei, calm down. If you release any more power, you'll end up destroying the immediate area around you. Issei began to calm down a little at his father's words. His aura began to calm down and he reined it in. Satan, that's it. Calm down. You won't be able to save Asia if you're angry like that. Issei. Sighs, thank you, father. Satan, you're welcome, son. Now, go save that girl. Say, oh, I will. Issei spread his wings and flew up into the sky. Once he was high enough, he locked onto the church and flew towards it. A few meters from the church, the fallen angel Middlet was sitting in a tree. Middlet, this is the worst. Standing guard is the most boring thing ever. Suddenly, there was a loud crash nearby that kicked up a cloud of dust. Middlet shielded her eyes and coughed. When she could see again, she noticed a pair of glowing red orbs. Middlet, who's there? The dust cleared to reveal Issei with his eyes glowing bright red. Middlet smirked and jumped down from the tree. Middlet, Well then, I was hoping for some action tonight. Hi there, my name's Middlet, and I'm the most awesome fallen angel in the. Before she could finish, Issei appeared in front of her and struck. Middlet. What? Issei then crushed her heart, and her body fell limp. He pulled his arm out and she collapsed to the ground. Just then, the other two fallen angels with Rainier appeared behind Issei. They saw Middlet dead and were shocked at how easily Issei had defeated her. You monster! What did you do to her? Issei glares. The same thing I'm going to do to you both. They summoned their light spears and hurled them at Issei, but he either effortlessly dodged them or swatted them away. Issei, if you tell me where Rainier is, I'll make this quick. Screw you, Brett. Take this. Issei. Enough. He appeared behind the man in the trench coat and sliced both his wings off. The man screamed in pain as he fell. The woman looked horrified, and Issei turned his attention to her. She tried to escape but felt Issei's foot on her back, sending her crashing to the ground. She attempted to crawl away, but Issei grabbed her wings and began to pull. Issei, I hope this hurts. He slowly ripped her wings off, and she screamed. Issei sensed someone approaching from behind and turned to catch a light spear thrown at him. The man in the trench coat had recovered. You little. I'm gonna kill you. The man lunged at Issei, but he created a light dagger, dodged the attack, and stabbed him in the back of the neck. Issei, tell me. How exactly are you going to do that? Issei left the dagger in the man's neck as he fell face forward to the ground, lifeless. The woman tried to crawl away, but Issei stabbed his sword into her back, making her cry out in pain. Issei, I've just fatally wounded you. I'm guessing you'll bleed out in about 2 minutes. So, if you tell me where Rainier and Asia are, I'll end your suffering. Strained. Forget you, you brat. Issei twisted the sword. They're in the church. Under the altar. There's a basement where the ritual is taking place. Issei, ritual? What kind of ritual? We were planning on taking the nuns' sacred gear. Issei's eyes widened in shock and anger. Sacred gears are linked to the user's soul, so removing one would be like taking their soul, thus killing them. Issei, join your friends in hell. He pulled the sword out and slashed her once across her back, ending her life. After dealing with them, a red magic circle appeared behind him. He turned to see Rias and Aquino. Issei, Rias. Aquino. What are you? Rias, we felt your aura from the school. Rias looked around at the 3 fallen angels. Rias, so you killed them? Issei, I did. Is that a problem? Rias, no. We went to where your aura first originated, but you weren't there. However, we did see an ambulance outside your house. Issei, my parents. Aquino, they're fine. We saw paramedics loading them into the ambulance before we left. Issei, sighs, thank goodness. Rias, anyway, we figured you wanted payback, so we guessed you'd come here. We were hoping to offer our assistance, but it looks like you don't need it. Issei, thank you. But this isn't over. If you're offering, I'll gladly accept. However, Rias, what is it? Issei, the fallen angel, Rainier, is mine. Rias. All right then. I sent Kiba and Kaneko to wait outside the church just in case you hadn't made it yet. They should be there. Issei, got it. Issei took off towards the church, and just as Rias said, Kiba and Kaneko were waiting. Kiba, Issei. Kiba and Kaneko noticed the anger in his eyes. He stood with them, and Kiba placed a hand on his shoulder. Kiba, listen, we saw what happened to your parents. I'm sorry. Issei, they'll be fine. Right now I'm worried about Asia. Kaneko, who's that? Issei, she's a nun the fallen angels were after. I'll explain later, but we need to move. Kiba, all right. Let's go then. They approached the church doors, and Issei kicked them off the hinges. They were met by the same stray priest Issei had encountered before, Fried Selzen. Fried, well, looks like we meet again. Oh, and you brought backup this time. How exciting. Fried pulled out his sword and gun, and Kiba drew his own sword. Unless you want to die, I suggest you move, Issei warned. Fried chuckled. Sorry, but they're wrapping up a super secret ritual right now, and I've been tasked with making sure you don't go anywhere near it. He suddenly sliced a church pew in half that Kaneko had thrown at him. Well, that was quite rude of you. Kiba jumped at Freed, and the two began clashing blades. Kiba blocked a downward strike from Freed and backflipped away to avoid Freed's follow-up gunshot. Wow, you're pretty fast for a devil, Freed remarked, but he was cut off when he had to dodge Issei's sword. Freed jumped back and fired a few shots at Issei, only for him to hold his hand out and unleash a pure black miasma that consumed the bullets. Freed narrowly avoided the attack. Issei's POV today was Asia's first day at school. I was in class, waiting for her to finish the enrollment process. Yo, Issei, got a second? Matsuda asked. Sure. What's up? So, you've had girls confess to you in the past, right? Was there any sign they liked you beforehand? Where's this coming from? Matsuda is just a little concerned, Motohama chimed in. His date with Keitase went pretty well, almost too well. Oh really? That's awesome, man. Yeah. But I realized how much I actually like her during our date, and I want to know if she feels the same way. I see. You want to know if she feels the same way about you. Yeah. I'm sorry to say, but most of the girls who confessed to me, I didn't even know existed until they told me how they felt. DMN really? Sorry. But didn't you say you've caught Keitase looking at you before? Yeah, but that was before the date. Well, don't look now, but she seems to be staring at you. For real? Matsuda turned around and they made eye contact. Keitase blushed and quickly turned away. I said don't look. Sorry. Chuckles, look, just give her some time. I'm sure she's wrestling with her own feelings right now. Right. Thanks, bro. All right, everyone listen up. We have a new transfer student joining us today. I expect you all to be on your best behavior and make her feel welcome. You can come in now. Asia walked into the room and wrote her name on the chalkboard. She turned around and gave the class her infectious smile. Hello. My name is Asia Argento. I'm feeling a little like a fish out of water, but it's a pleasure to meet you all. She bowed. I hope we can all get along. The class was silent for a moment, but then everyone reacted positively, clearly adoring Asia. It didn't take long for the class to start introducing themselves and asking her questions. When Asia mentioned she was living with me, I suddenly became the target for questioning, primarily from the guys. I explained that my parents were involved in a foreign exchange program, and Asia was part of it. A couple of days had passed since Asia enrolled, and she seemed to be enjoying her time as a student. Right now, I was in P, and everyone was stretching. I had stretched enough, but honestly, I wasn't in the mood for physical activities. Yawns, you know what, I'm just gonna skip class. Maybe take a nap or something. I slipped away from the class and headed to the nurse's office. A good nap would do me some real good. An hour later, I started to wake up and sensed that I wasn't alone. I turned to my left and saw Rias asleep next to me. The issue was that she was completely naked. Why was she sleeping next to me? When did she get here? How long had she been here? So many questions and no answers. But now that I looked at her, she did look really cute while sleeping. I tried to get up without waking her, but my movement stirred her. She opened her eyes and smiled at me. Hi there, Issei, she said with a yawn. Hey, mind telling me why you're sleeping next to me? I'm sorry, I felt a little sleepy, so I thought I'd grab a quick nap. You were already here, so I decided to join you. She looked back and realized her wings were out, quickly putting them away. That's cool and all, but that still doesn't explain why you're naked. I'm sorry, but I can't sleep unless I'm naked. As she said that, she snuggled up to me. My teenage hormones went wild at the sight of a cute girl snuggling with me, but I needed to stay calm. Wait a second, is she? Rias suddenly fell back to sleep. Sighs after a while, she fully woke up and started getting dressed. Rias, by the way, I've been meaning to ask, how are your parents doing? Issei, they're fine. My mom's doing okay, and my dad should be getting out of the hospital in a few days. So it's all good now. Rias, I'm glad to hear it. Issei, anyway, I heard Asia's been doing great with her devil work. Rias, she has. It's only been a week since she's become a devil, and she's already got a pact. Say, really? That's awesome. Rias, MHM. Also, I'm planning on taking her to get a familiar. Issei, a familiar. Rias, yes. But I think she'd be a lot more comfortable if you came with us. What do you say? Issei, sure. But where exactly do you go to get familiars? Rias, in the underworld there's a place called the Familiar Forest. However, we can only go on the night of a full moon, which is next week. Say, alright. I'll be sure to be ready. Rias, smiles wonderful. And hey, since you're tagging along with us, why not get yourself a familiar as well? Sounds like a good idea. I already know about familiars, creatures that you can make contracts with, and they become your companions. I remember my father telling me about a familiar he had, but when he passed away, his familiar did too. Once Rias was fully dressed, the bell rang, signaling the start of the break. Rias, perfect timing. Would you come with me to the clubroom? We're all meeting there to talk about going to the Familiar Forest. Issei, sure. Lead the way. Issei and Rias went to the ORC clubroom, and along the way, they picked up Asia. Once all three of them made it to the clubroom, Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko were already waiting for them. Rias, good. You're all here. Rias walked over to her desk and stood in front of it. Rias, all right, Asia, I believe it's time we got you a familiar. Asia, a familiar. Rias, yes. Rias snapped her fingers, and a small bat appeared from a puff of smoke. Rias, this is my familiar. Akino, I've got one too, of course. A small magic sigil appeared, and a small imp came from it. Issei, is that an imp? Actually, it kinda suits you. Akino, smiles thank you. Kaneko, this is Shiro. Kaneko had a small white kitten as a familiar. Asia gushed over how cute the cat looked. Kiba, mine's badass. A golden brown hawk landed on Kiba's shoulder. Rias, familiars are a major part of being a devil. When you're in need, they're always there to back you up. Asia, that's great. So, how do I get one? Rias, I was just about to explain that. There was a knock on the door, and Akino gave the all-clear to enter. The doors opened to reveal the student council, led by Sona Citri and Tsubaki Shinra. Sona, sorry to interrupt. Issei, what's the student council doing here? Sona, looks at Issei. You must be Issei Hayadu, the devil that Rias has an alliance with. It's nice to finally speak with you. My name is Sona Citri, but when around others, it's Shirtorai. Nice to meet you as well. Asia walked up behind Issei and tapped on his arm to get his attention. Asia, who are these people? Issei, the one in the middle is the student council president, Sona Citri, or Shirtorai. The one behind her is Tsubaki Shinra, the vice president. And they've brought the rest of the council with them. Sona, nice to meet you, Asia Argento. Asia, hello. Sona, also, I'd like to thank you for assisting in taking care of the rogue fallen angels. Issei, sure. It was no problem. Rias, now then what brings you here, Sona? Sona, nothing, I just wanted to congratulate you on increasing the number of your servants. Issei looked at the other members of the student council and recognized one of them. Issei, hey, I recognize you. You're from class 2C, who was just elected student council clerk. I think I voted for you. Sona, this is Saji Genshru, my newest member, and one of my pawns. Rias, this is the newest member of my family, Asia Argento, my bishop. But I'm still hoping that Issei accepts my offer to join my peerage. Issei, sorry Rias. Maybe someday. Just not today. Rias, bummer. Asia and Saji introduced themselves to each other, and Saji immediately started hitting on Asia. Saji, hey, are you sure you're not an angel? Because I'm sure you just fell straight out of heaven. Issei immediately grabbed Saji's hand and twisted it, putting him in an arm lock. Saji, ow 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 ow. Issei, lame pickup line aside, please refrain from coming on too strong with her. Glares, you should know, I can be quite protective of someone I view as a little sister. Saji. 00. Message received. Loud and clear, dude. Issei did. Issei let go of Saji and Saji grasped at his hand. Sona, I apologize for his behavior. He's still new, so cut him some slack. Anyway, Rias, I hear you're planning a trip to the familiar forest next week. Rias, I am. I was planning on taking both Asia and Issei to get a couple of familiars. Is that an issue? Sona, it is. I was planning the same for Saji, yet the familiar MST only takes one household at a time per month. Rias, in that case, why don't we have a friendly little contest to sort this whole thing out? Sona, contest. Rias, whoever wins gets the right to make their request first. Sona, surely you're not talking about a rating game. Rias, oh no. We'd never get permission to do something like that. Sona, yes, you're right. Besides, this isn't the time to call attention to yourself, now is it? Rias. Don't go there. Issei noticed Rias tense up for a moment, her tone becoming serious. Let's settle this the good old-fashioned high school way. With sports, Rias suggested. She and Sona decided to have a tennis match, Rias and Akino versus Sona and Tsubaki. Issei, Kaneko, Asia, and Kiba watched from the sidelines, and word had spread about the match, drawing a crowd of students. I don't think I've ever seen this many people at a tennis match before, Kiba remarked. Well, it's a competition between the 4 most popular girls in the school. Once word got out, it was bound to happen, Issei replied. Asia exclaimed, wow, look at them go. It was clear that the girls were rooting for Sona and Tsubaki, while the boys cheered for Rias and Akino. As the match progressed, it became increasingly intense. I feel like things are starting to get out of control, Kaneko observed. She was right as the girls began using magic. Wasn't it agreed that magic wasn't allowed? Kiba asked. It was. But something tells me they don't care, Issei said. Guess we can just throw the rule book away. It's cool. Besides, Rias and Akino are about to lay the smack down, Kaneko added. The match continued with both sides using magic to enhance their performance. Surprisingly, no one else seemed to notice. In the end, the match ended in a tie. Later, in the ORC clubroom, Kaneko held 2 broken tennis rackets. It's too bad it ended in a draw. Since nobody won, they're suggesting we all compete in a team match, she said. Seriously? Issei replied. As serious as a heart attack, my friend. They're all out there right now deciding what we should play, Kiba explained. Rias and Akino entered the room. We've chosen dodgeball as the game to play. We meet the Citrus tomorrow night in the gym, Rias announced. We? Issei asked. Yes. To balance out the teams, you'll be playing with us, Issei. Since you'll be tagging along with us to the familiar forest if. When we win, you'll join us to compete as well, Rias explained. All right, Issei agreed. Now let's win this. Rias declared. Right? Everyone responded. The next night, everyone gathered in the gym for dodgeball. Issei helped Asia stretch while explaining the rules. Soon, the Citrus arrived and the game began. It quickly escalated from a friendly match to a full-blown battle. Kaneko was the first to be eliminated after a ball hit her in the chest. One of the student council members attempted a sneak attack on Issei, but he caught the ball with one hand, surprising Rhea Kusaka. He spiked the ball back at her, and she was taken out. Sona recognized Issei as their biggest threat. She and Tsubaki exchanged glances and threw the ball through a magic circle, multiplying it into several dodgeballs aimed at Issei. It seemed he was done for, but he dodged them all, shocking Sona and Tsubaki. After flipping to avoid the last one, he grabbed it and threw it back at Tsubaki, hitting her in the stomach. The match continued, with players being eliminated one by one. It came down to Issei and Rias against Sona and Saji. Want me to take out that guy, Hayadu? Saji asked. No. I've got him. Sona replied, charging her dodgeball with magic and throwing it at Issei. He sidestepped, but the ball turned midair and homed in on him. Issei, look out. Asia shouted. Issei turned and caught the ball effortlessly, shocking Sona. He smirked at her and spiked the ball in her direction. Time seemed to slow for Sona as she realized she couldn't stop it. Just then, Saji jumped in front of her to take the hit, taking the full force of the dodgeball. DMN. He's gonna be feeling that for days, Issei thought. With Saji out of the way, Sona surrendered, knowing she stood no chance against Issei and Rias without help. Team Gremory won the game and the right to go to the familiar forest. Later, all members of the ORC gathered in the clubroom as Aquino prepared a magic circle to transport them. Issei wore the necklace that allowed him to teleport with Rias and her peerage. Once they stood in the circle, they were engulfed by a bright light. When it faded, they found themselves in an eerie-looking forest. "So this is the underworld," Issei said. "It's a little scary," Asia commented. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Who needs me?" A short man jumped from the top of a tree. He had the look of a middle-aged man in a white tank top and a backwards cap. "I'm the MSTR of the Familiar, also known as the Tuji. If your goal is to find familiars galore, you've come at the right time, that's for sure. The full moon is out to help you decide, and I'll be your guide." Aquino leaned closer to Issei. "If you can't tell, the Tuji is a bit obsessed with making things rhyme." "Go figure," Issei replied. "Now how can I help you? Tell me all your wants and desires. A strong one, a fast one that likes to set fires." Asia spoke up, well, I'd like one that's really cute and fun to be around." "Fun. Done and done," the Tuji said. "Oh, wonderful," Asia exclaimed. The Tuji looked at Issei. "And you, boy?" Issei pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he felt as if he was being pulled somewhere. "Father." "Yes, I felt it too. But it couldn't be." "What is it?" Issei asked. "Go to the source, son. But go alone. If this feeling I'm getting is correct, then it'll be too dangerous for everyone here." "All right." "Hey, Rias. Is something the matter?" "No, everything's fine. I feel like something's calling to me." Everyone looked confused about what could be going on with Issei, but the Tuji seemed unfazed. "Ah, the feeling you describe is one I know well. The strength and direction is something only you can tell. You all go help Asia get her familiar," Issei instructed. "What about you?" Rias asked. "I'm gonna go see where this feeling leads me." "All right. Just be careful. When you're ready to leave, just use the necklace." "Will do. And don't worry, I'll be fine." Issei walked off in the direction of the pulling sensation, leaving everyone else to follow the Tuji. As he walked, he passed various creatures. This forest is filled with all kinds of creatures you'd only read about in fairy tales. Yet they're all located in a single forest in the underworld. Issei stopped at the entrance of a cave, feeling a chill breeze coming from inside that made him shiver. "I can't believe it." "What is it?" Issei asked. "This cold feeling. It's the same as Nira's icy breath." "Who's Nira?" "Nira was my familiar when I was still alive. She was a strong and appealing ice dragon." "Wow. So this chill, it reminds you of her. Do you think?" "No. It's not possible, I'm afraid. Although, she did mention that she had a singular egg hidden away. Maybe this chilling sensation. Well, there's only one way to find out." Issei stepped into the cave and made his way to the source of the chill. The deeper he went, the colder it got, with walls of ice surrounding him. Eventually, he reached a huge chamber filled with appealing ice crystals, where a curled-up, sleeping dragon lay. He took cover behind a large ice crystal. "Wow, that dragon. There's no doubt in my mind. She's Nira's daughter. Now that we're this close to her, her aura and magic power feel nearly identical." Issei stood up for a better look, but a piece of the crystal broke off and hit the ground. The dragon's eyes shot open, and she stood up, revealing her size. Who dares disturb my slumber?" Knowing he couldn't hide, Issei stepped out from behind the crystal. The dragon looked at him with curiosity and a hint of suspicion. "A devil has found his way into my den. Why are you here, little devil?" "I apologize for disturbing you, but I felt as though I was being called here. I just wanted to see what it might have been, and now I'm here." She moved her head closer to Issei, her icy blue eyes glowing faintly as if looking directly at his soul. "Interesting. You harbor another spirit within you." Issei was shocked she could tell. "I'm impressed that you could tell." Of course, the eyes of a dragon cannot be easily deceived. She relaxed slightly but remained cautious. What is your name, boy? Sit. Issei Hayudu. And who might you be? I am Tiamat. It's a pleasure to meet you, Tiamat. Now then, about this feeling that led you here. What exactly is it? The second spirit within me. He's actually my father. Is that so? Interesting, but that still doesn't answer my question. Then let me answer your question with another question. Does the name Nira mean anything to you? There was a brief silence before Tiamat sat up and lowered her head to look directly at Issei. I haven't heard that name in centuries. How is it that you know the name of my late mother? My father. He was actually your mother's monsieur. Tiamat's eyes widened in surprise, then she began to laugh. That's rich. I'll admit you almost had me for a second. There's just no possible way for you to be the son of the Antichrist. The man had no heirs. Issei, you said nothing could deceive the eyes of a dragon, right? Tiamat. Issei, you tell me. Am I lying? Tiamat looked directly into Issei's eyes and couldn't find any hint of deception or trickery. Tiamat, you're serious. You're actually Satan's son. But how is that possible? Issei, it's a long story, but I'm being 100% honest with you. I am the son of Satan and the Antichrist. Tiamat looked shocked and a little impressed. Issei spread his 12 crimson devil wings and released a bit of his magic power to emphasize his seriousness. Tiamat, incredible. Your power is on par with some of the strongest dragons I've faced in my life. Issei, now do you believe me? Tiamat, your power speaks for itself. If anyone is the Antichrist, it's you. Issei put his wings away and reeled in his aura. Issei, now that that's settled, I have a proposal for you. Tiamat, Issei. What would you say to becoming my familiar? Tiamat, I see now. The reason you're here is because you felt the similarities to my mother's power. And since your father was my mother's, you think I'll just easily accept your offer to be your familiar? Say, no. Actually, I had a strong feeling you'd reject my offer. So how about this? You and I have a one-on-one fight. Tiamat, oh. Issei, you heard right. If I win, then you agree to a familiar contract with me. Tiamat, and if I win? Issei, then you get whatever you want. Tiamat, all right, I accept. Issei could see Tiamat starting to smirk as she stood up and stretched her wings. The temperature in the chamber suddenly dropped further, and Issei felt a chill, but he stood his ground against Tiamat's imposing figure. If what Satan said is true, and if she's even half as strong as her mother, then Issei was in for a very difficult fight. The area outside of Tiamat's cave was relatively calm, with creatures wandering around. But they all scurried away when the ground started shaking. Issei came flying out of the entrance with his wings spread. He recovered midair and dodged Tiamat's claw swipe. Tiamat, impressive. You're pretty fast. Tiamat swung her tail to smack Issei away. Her tail connected, and even though Issei blocked it, he was still sent flying into the side of a cliff. Tiamat quickly rushed Issei and slammed her palm into the spot where he was supposed to be. But when she removed her hand, he wasn't there. Suddenly, she felt something grab her tail and looked back to see Issei with a firm grasp on it. Before she could react, Issei swung her entire body over his shoulders and into the ground. Tiamat grunted in pain, surprised at his display of strength. She quickly recovered and shot her ice breath at him. Issei tried to avoid it but was eventually caught in the attack. He could feel his body freezing, so he used fire magic to counteract the ice breath. It worked, but the ice breath still caused him damage. Once Tiamat stopped, Issei's shirt had been disintegrated, but he was still standing tall. Tiamat, I'm impressed. Not many can take my ice breath directly and still be standing afterwards. Issei, breathe. What can I say? Breathe, I guess I'm just built different. Tiamat, quite the confident one, aren't you? All right then. Smiles, let's keep going. Tiamat and Issei flew into the sky and continued their fight. Issei landed massive punches on Tiamat while she tried to swipe him with her claws or tail. He avoided her tail, and when she tried to bite him, He stopped the top of her mouth with his hand and the bottom with his feet. Tiamat charged another blast of her ice breath, and Issei jumped out of the way. Tiamat directed her ice breath to the sky, covering the surrounding area in a thin layer of snow. Issei landed on the ground and looked around in awe at Tiamat's display of power. Issei, father, tell me, how strong is Tiamat compared to her mother? Satan, based on what she's shown us, I'd say she's every bit as strong as her mother. Maybe even stronger. Issei, amazing. Issei was brought out of his thoughts when Tiamat came crashing down on the spot where he was. He jumped back but was met with a swipe from her hand that sent him back down to the ground. However, Issei managed to stop her hand from completely flattening him, pushed her hand back, and hit her stomach with a flying kick. She stumbled back, and Issei followed up with another kick to the side of her head, causing her to lose balance and fall on her side. She got back up and turned her head to see Issei with his dark light bow, aiming at the sky. He loosed an arrow, and it transformed into a volley of arrows. At first, Tiamat wasn't worried, confident her scales could protect her, but after getting pierced by a few of them, she quickly flew out of the way of the rest. Tiamat, those arrows. They look like they're made of light, but there's no trace of holy magic within them. Tiamat looked back down to see Issei on one knee, aiming another arrow at her. This time, he charged up the arrow before shooting it, and the arrow flew so fast that Tiamat couldn't dodge it. The arrow pierced a joint in her right wing, causing her to fall from the sky. Once she was down, Issei transformed his arms into those of a dragon, covered in black scales with razor-sharp claws. He spread his wings and flew high into the air before diving towards Tiamat, who was just starting to get up. I'll finish this in one strike, Issei declared, forming his power of darkness around his dragon arms. He reeled his fist back as he quickly approached Tiamat. As she regained her footing, she looked around for Issei, but he was nowhere in sight. Her instincts warned her of danger from above, and she looked up just in time to see Issei descending. However, she wasn't fast enough to avoid his attack. He landed a punch directly in the center of her snout, causing blood to spill and teeth to break. Tiamat's eyes went white as she felt herself losing consciousness. This boy, so strong, Tiamat thought as she fell onto her side, knocked out cold. Issei had won their fight. 30 minutes later, Tiamat began to regain consciousness and slowly opened her eyes to see Issei sitting next to her. Issei noticed she had woken up and looked at her with a small smile. "Welcome back, Tiamat," he said. Tiamat sighed. "I see. I lost, didn't I?" Yeah, you did. Amazing. You truly are incredible, Issei Haidu. Thanks, Tiamat. Coming from someone like you, that's saying something. By the way, it looks like your teeth have healed. Yes. A dragon's teeth, claws, horns, and scales heal very quickly. Well then, a deal's a deal. I shall become your familiar. But I have a request I'd like to make. And what's that? Smirking, I want you as a mate. Ha! Chuckling, don't look so surprised. It's only natural that I'd be attracted to you. After all, you did best me in battle. Issei's thoughts raced. Did Nira ask you to be her mate? Satan interjected. Now that you mention it, yes. Apparently, when a dragon is defeated in combat, the one who bested them becomes their mate. Dragons are attracted to strength above all else. Issei was taken aback. And you're just now mentioning this because... Don't ignore me, he exclaimed. Just relax, son. It's not that bad. You attracting women was bound to happen. Besides, look at Tiamat. She's strong, appealing, and now that you've beaten her in battle, she'll be loyal to you. And it's not like she'll be the only one. What's that supposed to mean? Don't tell me you haven't noticed. The Gremry girl. It's clear as day that she's attracted to you. Yeah, I noticed. Look, we'll talk more on this later. Right now, it looks like Tiamat is waiting for an answer. Issei looked at Tiamat, who was indeed waiting for his response. Sorry about that. So, you're really okay with me as a mate? Of course. I always told myself that if I were to have a mate, they'd need to be strong. And you are plenty strong. Not to mention quite handsome as well. After the unusual events of the previous night, Issei barely caught a wink of sleep. What was up with Rias? Suddenly asking him to take her virginity. On top of that, the whole thing about her being free. What did she mean? Then there was Graphia. After she left, his father mentioned she looked familiar, specifically her silver hair. Apparently, she had the same silver hair as Lucifer, suggesting a possible connection. Tiamat chimed in, revealing that Graphia was a member of the noble devil family, the Lucifuge, and the last surviving member. However, she was married to Rias' brother, Surzex. His father was concerned because the Lucifuges were the most loyal to Lucifer, but since she wasn't technically a Lucifuge, it eased his worries. Half the school day passed, and Issei was having lunch with Asia, who had been learning to cook and was surprisingly good at it. As he enjoyed her delicious food, he heard someone call his name. Turning around, he saw Kiba approaching. "Hey Kiba. Need something?" "Actually, Rias told me to find you in Asia. She said she has something important to discuss and wants you there. Does she want to explain what happened last night?" "Alright, lead the way." They put away their lunch and followed Kiba to the clubroom, where everyone was gathered, including Graphia, standing next to Rias. "Thank you for getting them, Kiba. And thank you for coming, Issei, Asia," Rias said. "No problem. You said you had something you wanted to talk about." "Yes." Graphia. "As you wish, my lady," Graphia replied. Before she could say anything, a magic circle appeared in the middle of the room, accompanied by the sound of a bird screeching, and a pillar of fire erupted from the circle. "Phoenix," Kiba noted. When the fire disappeared, a man with blonde hair wearing a maroon suit appeared. "And Riser has returned to the human realm. I've come for you," he said, looking at Rias. Issei felt an immediate dislike for him. He just gives off this major douchey vibe. "Issei, who the heck is this guy?" "Graphia, this gentleman is Lord Riser Phoenix. He is a pure-blooded devil of noble Biarch, the third heir in line to the House of Phoenix. He is also engaged to the next head of the House of Gremory." Issei, wait, so he's Rias' fiancé? Graphia, yes. Lady Rias has been engaged to Lord Riser for quite some time now. Issei and Asia were shocked to hear that Rias was meant to marry Riser Phoenix. Rias sat down on one of the couches, and Riser sat next to her. All of Rias' servants stood on one side of the room, and Issei stood next to a window. Aquino had prepared some tea and served it to Rias and Riser. "Riser, lovely. The tea prepared by my Rias queen is most delicious." Aquino respectfully bowed but spoke in a tone that suggested she didn't care for Riser's presence. "Aquino, thank you for the compliment, sir." She then walked away and rejoined the others. Riser started playing with Rias' hair, all the while sporting a smug smirk. Issei, now it all makes sense. The whole exchanging her freedom thing. It was to get away from this guy. And I don't blame her. I just met him and I already want to punch him. Riser went from playing with her hair to touching her thigh, but that didn't last long because Rias stood up from the couch. "Rias, that's enough, Riser. Let it go. Why don't you understand that I have no intention of ever marrying you?" "Riser, but my darling, Riser believes that your family's circumstances are such that you cannot afford to be so selfish." Issei, and he talks in the third person too. "I want to hit him so badly. Rias, I will not bring my family to ruin. I have no intention of denying you your right to our name. However, let me be clear, my husband will be my choice. Riser, remember, it's imperative for devils to remain pure BLD. We're still recovering our numbers from the last war. Riser, both your father and Surzex decided on this arrangement with the future of devils in mind. Rias, my father, my brother, and my entire clan made this decision because they are in too great a rush. For the final time, Riser, I will not marry you." Riser cut her off by placing 2 fingers on her chin and leaning in closer. "Riser, for the final time, Rias, Riser bears the reputation of the House of Phoenix. Besmirching our good name is unacceptable." The tension in the room thickened. Riser doesn't care if he has to incinerate everyone in this room. You will return to the underworld with me. Both Rias and Riser's eyes started to glow, but before anything could happen, Issei grabbed Riser's wrist. Riser and Rias looked at Issei, shocked. Even Graphia was surprised. Riser, what the? Rias, Issei. Graphia, how did he get there? He moved so fast that I didn't even see him. Riser glares, and just what do you think you're doing, low-class some? Issei's grip on Riser's wrist tightened, and it was starting to hurt him. Riser grunts, what are you? Issei glares, didn't your prestigious family teach you that it's rude to touch a lady without her permission? Riser growls, you filthy wretch. Unhand me at once. Issei suddenly pulled Riser's wrist away. Riser stumbled back in pain, and everyone was shocked at what just happened. Issei was surprised to see Riser suddenly regenerate his hand. Riser, you filthy low-class mongrel. How dare you? Issei, those who can't keep their hands to themselves should have them taken from them. Riser, you dare defy me, mongrel. Riser's aura started to rise, and Issei released his own aura, along with some intense energy. The malicious energy aimed directly at Riser was felt by everyone else, creating a suffocating atmosphere. But all that was stopped when Graphia spoke up. Graphia, that's enough, gentlemen. Issei reeled in his aura, and Riser did the same. They both looked at Graphia, who still sported her stoic look, but Issei could tell something was off with her, as if she had been shaken up for just a moment. Graphia, Lord Riser. Mr. Issei, I'll have you know, I am here under the order of Surzex, which means there will be no disruption of peace. Riser. When told such an ominous thing from someone known as the ultimate queen, even Riser can become somewhat fearful. Issei sighs, I apologize, Ms. Graphia. I got a little carried away. Graphia nodded and looked at Rias. Graphia, my master anticipated there would be a conflict of some sort. As such, he has assigned me a last resort, should communication break down. Rias sighs, yes, of course he did. Would you care to be a little more specific? Graphia, if my lady insists on putting her personal preferences above those of her family, she is to settle this via a rating game with Lord Riser. Issei suddenly remembered Sona mentioning that before the familiar forest. Issei, that's the second time I've heard something about this rating game. What is it exactly? Kiba, it's a game noble devils play with each other. Long story short, they and their servants compete in battle to determine who wins. Issei, is this why you guys are based on chess pieces? Akino, yes. It's the reason why we have individual powers inspired by the evil pieces, in order to play the rating game. Issei, okay, I understand now. Riser smirks. Riser has played through numerous rating games and has scored several wins for himself. Unfortunately, my inexperienced bride has never even qualified for an official game. Akino, he knows that only mature devils are allowed to participate. So it's not as if she's had much opportunity. Issei, so you're at a disadvantage. Kaneko, I think we've got bigger problems to worry about. Riser took a look at all of Rias' servants, then turned to Rias. Riser, Rias, I have to ask, is this adorable group the extent of your servants? They're all you have. Rias, minus Issei, yes. But what does that matter? Riser chuckled and snapped his fingers. A magic circle appeared, and this time, 15 different girls appeared. Riser has 15 pieces. Other words, I have a complete set. Issei looked at the new arrivals and noticed they were all women. Issei, seriously. Can this guy be any more obvious? Just when I thought you couldn't get any scummier. Riser glares, what did you say, mongrel? Say, you heard me. Are you really so shallow that the only women you can get are those you bring into servitude? Riser, what are you? What? I'll have you know that Riser is only attracted to mature women. Issei, stare. Sure you are. Riser growls, enough. I've had it up to here with you, you filthy low-class wretch. Mira, a petite woman with dark blue hair, jumped from the group. She wore a red and white martial arts outfit and had a bow staff. She lunged at Issei and attempted to strike him, but Issei held out his hand, and when the staff made contact, the tip shattered. Mira and the rest of Riser's group were shocked. Issei then used Myra's distraction to knock her unconscious. He placed her on the floor and looked at the group of women. Issei, anyone else? None of them made a move. Even Riser was surprised at how easily he defeated Mira. Issei, then that's that. Issei walked away from Mira, and one of the girls with cat ears picked her up before rejoining the group. Rias looked at Issei with awe. She knew he was strong, but to see him display his strength was always fascinating to her. Suddenly, an idea popped into her head. Rias, Graphia. Graphia, yes. Rias, tell my brother that I accept the terms of the raiding game. Graphia nods very well. I will inform him immediately. Riser looked at Rias, surprised that she actually intended to fight him. Riser, huh? Very well, my dear. I'll see you at the game. Riser joined his group, but before they left, he spoke up. Riser will give you 10 days to prepare, Rias. Also, Lady Graphia. Graphia, yes. Riser wants to know, points at Issei, is it possible for him to participate as well? Graphia looked at Issei before looking back at Riser. Graphia, unless he's a part of Lady Rias' peerage, I'm afraid not. Riser smirks, then I'd like to request that he participate as well. Graphia, are you certain? Riser, yes. I want the pleasure of crushing this mongrel with my own hands. Graphia, very well then. I will put in your request to Surzex, and we will go from there. After that, Riser and his group were engulfed in flames before disappearing. Graphia gave one last bow to everyone before leaving as well. Rias then walked up to Issei. Rias, are you okay? Issei, don't worry about me. I'm fine. Are you? Rias. I will be. Listen, I have a request I want to make. Say. Rias, Issei. Will you help us train for the next 10 days? Issei, training. Rias, yes. Riser is so confident that he's going to win that he gave us 10 days to prepare. On top of that, he even wants you to fight alongside us. His overconfidence will be his downfall, and I intend to make it so. So I'm asking you, will you train with us? Issei thought about it for a second and looked at everyone. They basically asked him the same thing with their looks. Even the stoic Kaneko was asking with her gaze. Issei, all right, Rias. I'd be happy to train alongside you all. Rias suddenly hugged him. Issei was surprised for a moment, but he relaxed and started patting her head. Akino looked at the two of them with a smile. Akino, I knew it. She's totally into him. Issei, along with Rias and her group, were hiking up a forest trail to the place they'd be training for the next 10 days. Issei had a large backpack on, and while it was filled with heavy items, he was able to lift it with ease. Kiba was the same, but Kaneko had a bag that was about 10 times larger than both of theirs, and she wasn't even breaking a sweat. Issei, man, that rook's strength is no joke. Kiba, you've got that right, my friend. Something as big as that is nothing for Kaneko. Rias, Akino, and Asia were a little ways ahead of them. Rias turned around to see Issei, Kiba, and Kaneko, and waved at them. Rias, come on you three. We're almost there. They picked up the pace and eventually arrived at their destination. It was a pretty big mansion with a nearby pond and a gazebo next to it. Asia, wow. It's so appealing. Say, it sure is. And you said this place belongs to your family. Rias, yes. This is my family's home for whenever they spend time in the human world. It'll be perfect for our training camp. So, let's head inside. Unpack your stuff, and let's begin this training. Everyone went inside the house and started unpacking. Issei and Kiba were in a shared room, and Issei was dressed in a red muscle shirt and gray sweatpants. Kiba had put on a gray and white tracksuit. Issei, I have a question for you. Kiba, shoot. Issei, just how long have you been in Rias' peerage? Kiba. I don't really remember. It's been so long. Yes. 7 years or so. Why do you ask? Issei, just curious. I notice how loyal you are to Rias and how much you care for her. I know she's your MSTR and all, but the loyalty you have for her goes beyond a simple MSTR servant relationship. You truly respect her. Kiba, smiles I do. Mutters she did save my life after all. Issei, what was that? Kiba, nothing. Anyways, we should focus up. We've been given 10 days to train, so let's make the most of it. After their talk, they joined everyone in the front yard of the mansion. The first part of the training would be focused on sword training. Issei and Kiba stood across from each other with wooden training swords in their hands. Kiba held his sword with 2 hands, while Issei held his with 1. Kiba, I've got to admit, I've been wanting to spar with you for a while now. Issei, is that so? Then let's see what you've got. Issei lunged at Kiba, and they began trading strikes. Both were relatively even when it came to pure swordplay. Issei eventually found an opening in Kiba's defense and disarmed him. Kiba looked shocked at first but then smiled and congratulated Issei on his win. They continued sparring for a while longer before moving on to the next part of training. Lesson 2 was all about magic control and visualization. Akino was in charge of helping Asia learn better magic visualization. Issei was there as well, mainly to assist Asia since he already knew a lot about magic. Akino, all right, Asia, it's time you become aware of both the aura and magic surrounding you, and try to stream it to a focal point. Issei, mind giving her a little demonstration? Issei, not at all. Issei held out his hand, and a ball of dark light the size of a basketball appeared. Asia, oh wow. Say, see. Now you try it. Visualize the image of light. Let it flow through you, and release it as magical power. Asia held out her hands and focused on her magic. After a couple of seconds, she created a ball of green light the size of a softball. Asia, smiles, I did it. Issei, nice work, Asia. Akino, smiles, awesome. Look at you go with your little green light. It looks like you have a lot of natural talent for this, Asia. Issei, I agree. With time, you'll be an amazing magic user. Akino, all right. Now let's try using magic to manipulate certain elements. Akino brought out a half-empty bottle of water and placed it on the table. She held her hand over the bottle, and the water froze into multiple spikes, piercing out of the bottle. Asia, wow, that was so fast. Akino, and you will be too. Once you grasp the technique, you can control fire, water, lightning, and any of the other elements. Issei, remember, it's all about visualization. There aren't any rules to what you can imagine. Akino, he's right. All it takes is concentration. Want to give it a try, Asia? Asia, yes. I'd like to try. Issei pulled out a bottle of water and placed it in front of Asia. Issei, let's start with something simple. Try doing exactly what Akino just did. Asia, okay. Asia held out both hands, and the same green glow from before shined on the bottle. It took a while, but she was eventually able to turn the water in the bottle to ice. Akino, good job, Asia. Say, you really are a natural at this. Asia, thanks, you too. After some more time working on magic control and visualization, Issei went back outside for lesson 3 with Kaneko. This lesson was all about physical strength and hand-to-hand combat. Issei and Kaneko were sparring in the forest, and Kaneko had hit Issei with a solid punch, sending him flying back into a tree. Issei recovered and cracked his back and neck. Say, thanks. My neck and back have been feeling a little stiff lately. Kaneko, why are you holding back? Issei, huh? Kaneko, you're holding back. What? Issei. Smirks, I could ask you the same thing. Kaneko flinched a little when he said that. Did he know? Surely he doesn't. Issei, I've seen you fight against strays before. If you're worried about hurting me, then don't. Trust me, I can take it. Kaneko let out a sigh of relief. It appeared he didn't know about her little secret. But he did have a point. Why was she holding back against him? She felt his power firsthand back in the clubroom. A weak person wouldn't be able to manifest an aura that powerful. Kaneko, fine. I'll stop holding back. Only if you stop as well. Issei, smirks, all right then. Kaneko got into her kickboxing stance, and Issei got into his Muay Thai stance. They both charged at each other and began trading blows. They blocked and deflected each other's punches and kicks until Issei landed a solid kick to her stomach. She was sent sliding back but managed to stop herself. She looked forward to see Issei was gone, but her instincts told her to look up. She jumped out of the way just as Issei came crashing down with his knee, cratering the ground. Kaneko took the opportunity to jump on his back and put him in a rear naked choke. She tried taking him to the ground, but he was able to stay on his feet. He then launched himself backward into a tree, causing Kaneko to be caught between him and the tree. While she was stunned, he grabbed her arm and flipped her over his shoulder, slamming her into the ground. He then got on top of her and raised his fist. He went to punch her, and Kaneko closed her eyes, preparing for the impact. But it never came. She opened her eyes to see Issei's fist stopped right in front of her face. Issei smirked. "I win this one." Kaneko huffed. You got lucky." Issei got off of her, and she stood back up, dusting herself off. Again, Kaneko insisted. "Alright, let's keep going." Issei and Kaneko continued sparring until it was time for dinner. Issei and Asia prepared dinner for everyone, and they all sat down and ate. Afterwards, everyone went to the baths. The girls went into their section, while Issei and Kiba went into the boys' section. Kiba finished bathing and got out early, while Issei took his time. As he relaxed in the warm water, he suddenly felt arms wrap around his neck. He quickly opened his eyes to see Tiamat beside him. "Tiamat, what are you doing here? What does it look like?" "I'm taking a bath with my mate." I see that. But why now?" Tiamat giggled. "Why not? This is the perfect time for us to get to know each other." She began to tease him, her touch sending shivers down his spine. "Does that feel good? Do you have to ask?" As she continued, Issei felt overwhelmed by the sensations. "You look so adorable when you're being teased like this," Tiamat said, capturing his lips in a kiss. They shared a passionate moment, their connection deepening. "Wow, that felt good." Issei finally said. "I'm glad you enjoyed that," Tiamat replied with a smirk. She kissed him again, breaking the kiss after a while and looking at him while licking her lips. "This is just a preview of what's to come," she said. "A preview? Yes. I don't want to distract you too much from your training, but you should know, since I'm a dragon, I have certain needs. Needs that only you can fulfill." Issei blushed at her words, grateful that she was willing to wait. "Once this whole rating game thing is wrapped up, I'll relieve you." "Thank you," Tiamat smiled, kissing him one more time before retreating into his shadow. Issei leaned back against the edge of the bath, letting out a breath he didn't know he was holding. After the bath, he went into the kitchen to get a glass of water before heading to bed. On his way back to his room, he ran into Rias, who was in her nightgown and wearing glasses. "Issei, what are you still doing up? It's getting late." "Actually, this is perfect. I'd like to chat with you about something." Rias led Issei to the gazebo near the pond and shared her attack plan against Riser. So that's the plan, huh?" Issei said. "It is, but it's not a very good one. According to this manual, we still have a lot to worry about." "I see what you mean. No amount of planning can predict what the enemy will do. Plus, we are going up against Phoenix. Trust me, the name is appropriate. A devil, but also a marquis among the 72 pillars. We've definitely got our work cut out for us." "Remind me, what is his ability exactly?" "It's the same as the beast his family's named after, immortality." "DMN. No wonder he's so confident." "Exactly. He regenerates immediately after an attack." Issei recalled how quickly Riser had regenerated after injuring himself. Riser's win/lose ratio is 8, however. Those 2 losses were accepted out of respect for a family he's close to. He lost on purpose. Ever since the rating game was put into effect, the House of Phoenix has dominated the playing field. They always have the highest score. How are you supposed to lose if you're immortal? "It sounds like you were set up." "Yes. Everyone anticipates me losing. But I'm not going to back down. I'm going to change the score and prove them wrong. In our chess, this is called a swindle or a trap maneuver." "I have a question. Why do you even have to go along with this marriage proposal?" Rias took off her glasses and stood up, walking over to a pillar and leaning on it. "The proposal was to the heiress of the House of Gremory. Because of my title, I'm not recognized as Rias. The House of Gremory will always come before me. I've learned to adjust to it and make personal decisions accordingly. My title is something I will always take pride in. But when it comes to marriage, I want to share that with someone who loves me as Rias, not for how my status can improve their life. Otherwise, they may as well marry the house. I understand that history is not in my favor, and the idea of love may just remain a dream. But it's one I'd like to keep. Issei couldn't help but feel a little sorry for Rias. The concept of arranged marriage had never been something he agreed with, and he understood how she felt. Why marry someone you won't love? Issei. Well, if it makes you feel better, I think you're an amazing person. Rias looked back at him, a little surprised. Issei, I mean, look at what you're willing to do just to defend your ideals. You're willing to go against the us. Plus, I notice just how hard you work, and I can't help but wonder, what else are you capable of when you put your mind to something? I don't believe the Gremory name defines who you are. It's just an empty title. And anyone who disagrees doesn't know you. Rias was taken aback by Issei's words, but she started smiling. Issei, plus, someone known as the Princess of Ruin and Empress of Annihilation, doesn't get titles like that for no reason. Riser may be immortal, but he is not invincible. Plus, he challenged me as well. Issei held out his hand to Rias. Issei, let me help you. Let me lend you my power, and allow me to shoulder some of the burden. Together, we'll prove that he's not unbeatable. Rias looked at Issei with wide eyes. It felt like for the first time in a long time, she could relax and let someone else help for a change. She smiled and took his hand. Rias, okay. Thank you. Issei, smiles of course.